Hello and welcome to the Short-Term Rental Pacifier. This is the podcast where we try to give you some tips and tricks to make your short-term rental investment make more money, optimized, and really more fun. I'm your host, Landon Smith. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about refunds and whether to refund or not, especially when a guest is outside of that cancellation period where they can still get a full or a partial refund. The guest canceled for multiple reasons. Some are legitimate. Sometimes you're trying to book somewhere else, and it could simply be because they just decided they didn't want to go on the trip. And there's also other reasons but those are usually the main ones. Hardest thing is really trying to find out what makes the right business decision. And that usually comes down to the guests themselves. In other words, if a guest is a guest that I want to have back and will likely come back, I'm probably going to give a full partial refund, even if I don't have to. If the guest is rude or angry, I'm probably not going to give a refund when I don't have to because they're really not the type of guest that I want to come back. Last year, we had a guest, they were on their second night of a 10-day booking. They were staying there for about 10 days because their apartment was being worked on and they needed a place to stay during construction. And for some context, we'd already given a pretty nice discount because of their situation, and it was over a week. So they made the reservation about 3 weeks prior. All was well until they said they needed to cancel and asked for a full refund. Early one morning, I received a message asking for this, and I told them I had to speak with the owner because the cancellation policy is expired, especially after you've already checked in. And given that the booking window at that time was about 2 weeks, the owner would essentially be giving up all of those nights and unlikely to be rebooked. So I told her if she knew she needed to cancel, go ahead and do that now. At least open up those dates for potential reservations because it would make it much easier to give a refund if they got rebooked. So trying to be really as understanding and graceful as possible, but still recognizing that this is a business, at least for me and the owner of the property. But I also told her we would at least refund one night and the cleaning fee just to try to help out. But the higher demand times with it being such a long stay, the owner just counts on that revenue. So she actually proceeded to tell me how this wasn't her fault. The apartment was ready early, how she thought it was quote unquote theft to not be refunded in the full amount. And I just politely reminded her that I did want to help her out. And technically, the owner doesn't have to give any kind of refund per the cancellation policy. And we're already giving her one night plus the cleaning fee. Then reiterated that if she's going to cancel, do it as soon as possible, right? Open up those dates so we can get it rebooked, better chance of a refund. Unfortunately, it was not well received. She started calling and texting, like almost robo texting over and over, saying things like, I'm going to report you to the Better Business Bureau. I'm going to leave these terrible reviews. At that point, I said I'd go ahead and cancel the reservation, hopefully get it rebooked. We'll still honor what we said, but I was going to block her number due to the aggressive communication. Also wished her the best and sympathized with her situation. So we did get a few nights booked that were canceled, but when I explained the situation to the owner, she and I both agreed that it made sense not to give her any more of a refund based on some of the things that she had said. So kind of a completely different story. So that's that kind of story, or don't want to give any kind of refund. And this next one just happened yesterday. And so I had one of our clients, one of our owners reach out and essentially asked the same question. Cancellation period had expired, and the guest gave a pretty good reason for needing to cancel. They hadn't checked in yet, but they politely asked for a refund. And she's, what would you do in a situation like this? So I said, reach out to the guest, tell them you'll talk with the owner about any kind of refund, but that you can for sure refund the cleaning fee. And side note, part of what we started doing was making it clear to guests there are more than one person communicating with them. And we do this for situations like this where you can almost be like your own negotiator, if you will. So in any case, I told her, let me know how they respond. She came back and said they're very appreciative and just to let them know what the owner says. So I said, all right, go back to that guest and say, hey, we can't cancel your booking on Airbnb without a penalty. But I know that in the past, the owner has refunded guests if the canceled nights get rebooked. So if you want to go ahead and cancel the reservation now, I think they'll be much more open to doing the same thing this time around. Can't guarantee it. So she actually came back about half an hour later, said, the guests ended up keeping the reservation. They're all good. And she made a comment, which is so true. All these little nuances of guest communication, how much psychology really goes into it. And she's right. So there are certainly times when guests have to cancel for legitimate reasons. And usually based on the response is how I determine whether or not we're going to give them a refund at all. This also assumes they're outside of their free cancellation period, of course, obviously get a refund if they were. But I think it's really important, and it's difficult to try and walk that line between what's the right business decision, but also giving some grace. And so we found that responding like we did above in both of those stories really starts to uncover what kind of guest we have. Based on the response, we can usually determine whether or not we actually want them as a repeat guest or not. In the second scenario, we don't exactly know why they needed to cancel and why they decided not to cancel. It was very likely they were trying to book a property in the same area. We obviously didn't ask them that, but it would make sense. In any case, we kept the booking. So these are kind of the big, I could say, quote, big, really little things that turn out to be really big things that we've learned over the years. I'd like to share with our clients, help them make the best decision for their business. But if you have any ways you've handled guest communication that's different from what I just talked about, would absolutely love to hear it. And hopefully, this has been helpful to you. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, please like it, subscribe to it. And if you'd like to learn more about what we do to help our clients and owners streamline and optimize their short-term rentals, you can visit us at www.AirINN.life. That's www.AirINN.life. And until next time, cheers.